Hello and welcome. This lecture represents a transition from strategic planning to project management, our topic for the next few units. In moving from here to there, I want to spend just a little time with a few readings and videos on management in general, and Henry Mintzberg in particular. Mintzberg's ideas on the structure of organizations are referenced in Bowman and Deal, and support many theories of organizational change. Mintzberg is also well known for his keen practical observations on management and many years of working with and educating managers as well as influencing schools of business on management principles. Where many books on organizations and management focus on the top, with leadership being a key driver, Mintzberg is keenly focused on the middle, and he attributes much of the success of organizations to great managers and what he and others call great strategic thinking. Where strategic planning is an analytical process, strategic thinking, according to Mintzberg and others, is synthesis, and where real innovation and transformation occurs within an organization. Innovation rarely comes about as a direct result of the strategic plan, which is not to say that the planning process is wrong. Companies need the vision, the mission, the goals, and the logical and systematic approach strategic planning provides to give direction and focus to the organization. The strategic plan certainly can create an environment in which innovation can occur. But at the operational level, where strategic planning turns into strategic execution, organizations need leaders and managers who can synthesize, who are divergent and creative thinkers, who take the initiative and turn out-of-the-box thinking into new and innovative programs and projects. As you'll see in some of the videos I've linked, Mintzberg believes to a certain extent great managers are born, not made. But he also believes, and the Haycock article points out, that there is a consensus that strategic thinking is a learnable skill. In the Haycock reading, Bennis and Goldsmith offer the 6 sequential steps to aid the strategic thinking learning process. Now, as you'll find out over the next couple of weeks, if you don't recognize them already, these look quite a bit like the steps you'd take to manage a project. Strategic thinking is, in part, a creative process, and it may be that some people are naturally more creative than others. But Mintzberg and others have shown that strategic thinking is, to quote Haycock, a synthesizing activity that can be developed in individuals across all levels of organization so that their creativity and innovation may become integrated into the formal organizational strategic planning process. Haycock goes on to describe several different perspectives on strategic thinking that you may want to explore in your online discussions. Haycock looks closely at 4 areas in which the strategic thinker needs to excel. The first is problem solving. Here, he doesn't mean just the ability to be clever at puzzles, but to recognize at a very high level what the organization's vision should address. Organizations whose mission is fuzzy or unclear may have picked the wrong problems to solve. Organizations must recognize their true calling and then engage in the kind of strategic thinking that leads to the best ways to address those issues. Next is adaptability. The OCLC environmental scan highlighted to libraries how the world around them was changing. The strategic thinker will not be paralyzed by change, but rather will use it to advantage and adapt plans to suit changing circumstance. Scenario construction is the ability to look at a wide range of alternatives, to imagine different paths, and to bring both intuition and analysis to bear in order to pick a path forward in times of uncertainty and change. Finally, in the face of inevitable change and growth, strategic thinkers will innovate and move in directions that nevertheless align with planning and policy initiatives, and that move the organization forward with its goals and objectives while simultaneously looping experimentation and continuous improvement moving forward. I've added an article to your supplementary readings by Lemieux that addresses how Mintzberg's approach to certain management principles applies to archival appraisal, and I'll talk briefly about it here. It's not required reading, partly because it's on the long side, and partly because fully appreciating it requires some expertise and understanding in archival appraisal. But it does beautifully explain both some of Mintzberg's management approaches and addresses some of the issues in archival work that are complicated by difficult and messy organizational structures. As Lemieux explains, there are three general issues the paper looks to address. First, Mintzberg's 7 organizational configurations demonstrate that communication in an organization doesn't always flow according to rigid administrative structure. This has implications for archives in the context of macro appraisal theory, and where accountability and documentation sources exist that the archivist should consider for appraisal purposes. Second, organizations vary in the degree to which they are structured. Mintzberg's archetypes offer a model for the archivist to use in constructing appraisal policies for collections for organizations. Finally, Mintzberg's approach to describing organizations flowed from a functional view of how they actually worked. Recall Max Weber from Bowman and Deal, the early 20th century economist who was one of the first to write about the structural organizational approaches of the late 19th century. Those divisions were largely based on labor, offices, roles, and so on. But Mintzberg's 7 configurations recognize that organizations achieve functionality in ways that break strict structural lines. For the archivist, this has implications for the nature of appraisal of organizational records. The paper first gives a very good accord of Mintzberg's principles, and then a good analysis of their applicability to appraisal issues. So if you have time and an interest in appraisal, digital or otherwise, I recommend this. If nothing else, read the first section on Mintzberg's organizational principles. Finally, check the Groups tab because your group project team is assigned this week, and there's a group assignment, basically an icebreaker. Teams are divided up into 3 or 4 members in most cases. This exercise is designed to go a little deeper than your course introduction entry that you made and help build team awareness and camaraderie. Speaking of teams, we'll get to Agile and Scrum over the next couple of units on project management, but I've introduced a short video on Scrum teams for you to review in this unit, as Bowman and Deal introduce teams generally, and the Scrum team is a type of independent, self-managed, all-network team. You'll see when you get there in the reading. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to reading your discussion and your interviews.